Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Megan McPherson. Happening right now, efforts are underway to help save Hennepin County Medical Center. Hennepin County Commissioner Jeffrey Lund says the board was asked to pass a local resolution at today's meeting that would clear the way for legislation at the state level to repurpose an existing sales tax and create a stable funding source for HCMC. To prevent closure, the proposal centers on the so-called ballpark tax, which was originally used to fund Target Field. The bill would increase Hennepin County's existing sales tax to 1%, generating about $340 million a year for HCMC. As of now, the hospital projects up to $50 million in losses this year and as much as $1.7 billion over the next decade. Hospital leaders warn without this funding, it could start to close in just a few months and cause a domino effect in other hospital systems.
The 1 to 2 hours you might feel at another hospital would become 8 to 12 hours wait times. We're hearing bipartisan support for that, and they're all saying be patient with the process. Let us do our work and toss some ideas around to see what can stick.
HCMC is the state's largest level 1 trauma center, providing critical care for patients statewide. This makes its financial instability a regional crisis, not just a local one. Also at the state capitol today, the Minnesota House DFL plans to file an ethics complaint against Republican Representative Elliot Engen, who was charged with the DWI, and Republican Walter Hudson, who police say was in the car with Engen carrying a legal firearm. We've also learned GOP Speaker Lisa Dameth stripped both Engen and Hudson of their committee assignments for the rest of session. Dameth hasn't commented on the ethics complaint, but previously said both members behaved unacceptably. Over in Wisconsin, the polls are open. Voters there are getting ready to decide who they want to sit in the state Supreme Court. Audrey Russo is in Hudson with more on the candidates.
The polls are now open here in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race, which is honestly kind of a far cry from the last race last year, which set the record for the most expensive judicial campaign in U.S. history. Now, outside interest isn't as interested in this particular race because the balance of power isn't really a factor here. If conservative candidate Maria Lazar were to win, then the liberal majority on the court would remain 4-3. If the liberal candidate Chris Taylor were to win, then it would widen obviously to 5-2. Now, both candidates have said that they intend not to let their political ideology play a role if they were to win in any of their rulings. But so far, the liberal majority on the court has made a big difference in the way things are happening here in Wisconsin. The liberal majority was able to overturn a post-Roe abortion ban. They were able to get new legislative maps redrawn, breaking through a GOP gerrymander. Now, political scientists say that if the liberals were to win their 4th Supreme Court race in a row, it could lead to some GOPers possibly wanting to spend their conservative campaign dollars elsewhere. Now, if the liberals were to lose, it could show that this so-called blue tide is possibly coming to an end. Back to you.
2 big court cases we're watching this morning. First, the woman charged in the hit and run that killed a University of St. Thomas student last month will make her first appearance. 22-year-old Gabriella Liebgott is charged with criminal vehicular homicide. Investigators say a tip led them to her car at an auto shop, and forensic testing found DNA and white fibers on the car that matched the victim. Authorities say she has prior convictions, including driving with open intoxicants in her vehicle. Then John Sawchuk, a Minneapolis man accused of shooting his neighbor back in 2024, will be back in court today. His case has been on hold since October, when Sawchuk was found incompetent to stand trial. A judge will be reviewing the status to see if the case can move forward. His neighbor, Davis Maturi, claims Sawchuk harassed him for months leading up to the shooting that left him with a fractured spine and broken ribs. It is deadline day, the day President Trump told Iran to make a deal to stop the fighting in the Middle East or risk a U.S. attack that would take out the nation's power plants and bridges. At the same time, the president praising the American service members who rescued 2 U.S. airmen downed in Iran. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. The clock is ticking to an 8 o'clock Eastern deadline tonight for Iran to make a deal as critics accuse President Trump of going too far in his latest threats to the regime. This morning, fresh explosions in Tehran as President Trump ramps up the pressure for Iran to make a deal to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz by tonight or face widespread destruction.
After that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah.
Israel now warning the Iranian people to avoid using trains. President Trump saying Iran is negotiating, though communication is difficult, and that their latest offer was significant but not good enough. Iran has been demanding a permanent end to the war, publicly rejecting calls for a temporary ceasefire. Now, with an 8 p.m. Eastern deadline looming, Democrats are condemning the president's threats to take out Iran's bridges and power plants, civilian infrastructure.
What the president is doing is threatening war crimes.
The president rejects that.
No, not at all. No. I hope I don't have to do it.
While also celebrating the successful rescue of 2 American airmen whose F-15 fighter jet was shot down over Iran last week by a shoulder-fired missile. The pilot was located first, while officials say the second airman, a badly injured colonel and weapons systems officer, hid in a mountain crevice, evading capture for nearly 48 hours.
He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location.
The president saying the daring rescue took hundreds of troops, some throwing the Iranians off the trail, and that all American service members made it back to safety. President Trump was pressed by reporters on whether the war is winding down or ramping up. He said it depends what Iran does, calling this a critical period. He also said the U.S. may be involved in rebuilding Iran and that he wants to avoid hitting power plants and bridges because that would be expensive to rebuild. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
This morning, as Columbia Heights schools begin their 4th quarter, students are also returning to in-person classes after many chose to stay home due to Operation Metro Surge. This comes as we're learning new details about a shooting involving federal immigration agents in January. The city of Minneapolis released video of that confrontation from a traffic camera. Take a look. The nearly 9-minute video seems to contradict what Homeland Security initially said. DHS previously claimed an agent was attacked by 3 men with a snow shovel. But this video shows the snow shovel dropped and the agent appeared to fire his weapon after 2 men run toward the front door of a home. An ICE spokesperson says sworn testimony by 2 officers appeared to be untrue, adding they're both on administrative leave. This morning, officials in the metro believe kids are likely responsible for intentionally setting several fires in recent weeks. Authorities believe in the last 3 weeks, children started 2 fires near an apartment complex on County Road D West in New Brighton. In nearby St. Anthony, authorities believe kids are likely responsible for another fire last week at Silver Point Park. The New Brighton Fire Marshal says no injuries were reported, but kids were seen running away.
We know that it's drastically underreported. It's one of those things where a lot of times parents just simply think that this is normal behavior and they'll grow out of it, but it's not.
Kids who were caught setting fires can face charges including vandalism or arson. A statewide helpline is available for families seeking help at 1-800-500-8897. This morning, the Artemis II crew is enjoying some well-deserved time off before they spend the rest of the week preparing to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. This is a live look from Orion heading back home after making history yesterday with a flyby around the moon. President Trump got to talk with the crew, congratulating them on their historic day.
Today you've made history and made all America really proud, incredibly proud. We have a lot of things to be proud of lately, but there's nothing like what you're doing, circling around the moon for the first time in more than a half a century.
Just an hour before that phone call, the astronauts experienced another first, a solar eclipse from space. They also reported seeing other planets during this time, including Mercury and Saturn. It wrapped up a 7-hour lunar flyby where around 6 last night, the astronauts reached the farthest distance ever from Earth, more than 252,000 miles away.
We will explore, we will build ships, we will visit again. We will construct science outposts, we will drive rovers, we will do radio astronomy, We will found companies. We will boast our industry. We will inspire. But ultimately, we will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
So cool. As we mentioned, the astronauts are now heading home. They are expected to splash down in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego Friday evening. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.